Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, in a rare glimmer of hope in the story of the Chibok schoolgirls abducted by Nigeria's Boko Haram extremists over 2 years ago, one of the missing has been found alive and well by a group of patrolling soldiers in the Sambisa forest. Also, leaders in Somaliland keep up calls for international recognition of their self-declared independence from Somalia. This as the region celebrates 25 years since it took that step. And the lack of a formal design school in Madagascar has not put off creatives who want to make their ideas a reality. Many make it up as they go along. We take a look at the artful results. Well, first, in a rare positive development in the story of the 219 Nigerian schoolgirls abducted by Boko Haram extremists over 2 years ago, one of the missing has been found. She was reportedly discovered in the Sambisa forest of Borno State. She was 17 when she was kidnapped, along with hundreds of others from her school in Chibok. A raid that sparked the Bring Back Our Girls campaign that's been fighting to keep the mass abduction in the public eye and calling for authorities to do all they can to track down those still held captive. Chika Odua joins us now with more to tell us more about the circumstances of the girls' discovery.
Well, first thing to point out is that we're actually hearing two versions of a story. The Chibok community are telling us that this young lady, Amina Nkeke, was actually found Tuesday evening by anti-Boko Haram vigilante forces. They say she was wandering around in the forest and they actually retrieved her. There's another version actually coming forth out from the Nigerian government, specifically from the Nigerian army. They say that they actually discovered her, that Nigerian troops found her this afternoon around 1:45 local time. So we're hearing two versions of this story, but basically we know that a Chibok girl has been found, released from her captors after 2.5 years of captivity in the hands of Boko Haram.
So she was reportedly in the company of a suspected member of Boko Haram and a 4-month-old baby girl, if I'm to understand that correctly. Have we found out anything more about what happened to her during her time in captivity?
Not much has come out yet. We're still leaking out some more information. We're trying to, of course, to be very delicate with how much we're asking her to speak at this time because there are reports that she may be traumatized. But she did tell one of the Chibok community leaders who's based in Abuja that about 6 of her classmates, other Chibok schoolgirls, have been killed, have died since being in Boko Haram captivity. Let me say that they've died. We're not sure whether they were killed, but they have died, according to Amina Nkeke. And she also says that more of the Chibok girls, at least 200, are still in captivity. We're assuming that they're in Sambisa Forest. This is the stronghold that Boko Haram has held onto for at least the past 6 or 7 years or so.
So what's it going to mean for moving forward in trying to track down the rest of the girls? This is a great development for movements like the Bring Back Our Girls movement that's been really campaigning to keep the spotlight on their return. Is Amina's discovery likely to really move that forward in any way?
I would definitely say yes, a cautious yes, but definitely a yes. There has been a lot of praise and a lot of happiness here in Nigeria, especially with the Chibok people, especially with the Bring Back Our Girls activists. I spoke to some of the community members in Chibok, and they're really excited because they are confirming that this is a Chibok girl. Finally, we've heard so many stories in the past. Hundreds of women and children have been rescued or found wandering away from Boko Haram. But for the first time, we're actually hearing about a Chibok girl. And of course, the world has followed this story, the Chibok girl saga, for the past 2 years. So this is definitely some positive news that we rarely get to hear. And what's going to happen now is that the Nigerian security forces is going to try to definitely verify her story, verify her identity. But interesting to note is that she did actually recognize some people in her community when she was actually taken out of the forest. She did go back to meet her mother in Chibok, and so she was reunited with her family. So at least we can say that she does have some semblance of being in a sound mind if she was able to actually remember her mother. So what's going to happen at this point is that she will be taken to Abuja, and the investigations will continue on. And hopefully we'll get some more news and she can really lead the Nigerian security forces and the government to actually say where these girls are.
Chika Odo there for us from Abuja. Well, staying with Nigeria, its oil woes continue. Suspected Niger Delta rebels have reportedly bombed a pipeline in Bayelsa State, leading to a 1,000 barrel a day drop in production. Meanwhile, supplies of imported fuel have been disrupted by a lack of the foreign currency needed to pay for it. The government's been forced to put up the price of petrol by 67%, and despite a court injunction, some pressed ahead with a national strike on Wednesday. The oil crisis has seen airlines warn that flights may be cancelled, and motorists have faced long queues at filling stations for weeks as pumps run dry. Well, Somaliland on Wednesday celebrated 25 years since it proclaimed its independence from Somalia. Leaders from the semi-autonomous region used the occasion to renew calls for international recognition. Karim Labor tells us more.
This 25th Independence Day has a bittersweet taste for Somaliland. In 25 years, this self-proclaimed state has succeeded where Somalia has failed. Stability, security, democratic election, and yet not one foreign government recognizes its sovereignty. A situation Somalilanders just don't understand.
We have achieved something that most of the African countries haven't achieved yet. We have achieved something that most countries in the third world or in the developing country haven't achieved yet, and that's pure democracy. We have democracy in this country. We have free elections.
Somaliland is a country in legal limbo. Somalilanders have passports they can't use to travel. The economy is cut off from the global financial system. No possible loans from the IMF or the World Bank. But last week, Dubai has signed a contract to transform the port of Berbera into a strategic hub for the region. Having experienced 25 years of political stalemate, Somaliland is now turning to economic leverage to gain recognition.
Karim Labor there for us. Now, Madagascar may not have a formal design school, but that hasn't put off creatives who want to make their ideas a reality. Many make it up as they go along, using local materials, recycled textiles, and a bit of artful invention. Take a look.
Trendy purses made entirely by hand, and bow ties like you've never seen before. Manuela Rakotomanga has been managing the Alizé fashion label for 3 years. She now employs a dozen designers, whom she had to train herself.
The difficult part of being an entrepreneur is reaching a point where you can hire professionals. Because today, for example, we have a lot of workers who learned how to crochet from their mothers. But they don't necessarily know proper crocheting techniques.
Performer and stylist Sasha Bambam specializes in costumes for stage and screen. Aside from a few sewing classes, she's completely untrained, yet she single-handedly dresses some of Madagascar's most popular performers.
At the moment, we don't have a real design school here. There are schools for tailors and seamstresses where you can learn the basics. But when I wanted to create my own style, I had to hustle and figure it out on my own.
Nani Andriansifern created her label Vice Local in 2013. Today she has her own workshop with 6 employees. And like other young designers, she often needs to make the most of what's at hand.
We recycle a lot. Second-hand shoes, second-hand accessories, but we try to do our best. You will never notice that your shoes are used, but in fact most of the materials used are recycled.
Manuela's designs are sold in France and India, and Nani has found clients in nearby Mauritius. With a stitch here and a hustle there, these young creators are now hoping to conquer the fashion world, one design at a time.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa. Do stay with us. More news coming up from around the world. Take care.